Thank you, Maria. Cedric Phillips, Paul Cheon here in the booth to get draft started very early on this morning. Paul, we looking forward to cracking some boosties?
Oh my gosh, I've probably spent way too many hours playing limited.
Is there such a thing?
There probably isn't. There
Okay.
were moments where I'm like, you know what, I really probably should play modern.
Okay.
But I just kept firing off the draft, so I cannot wait to see when Nathan opens.
Well, this is a pretty complex format. It's a little bit grindy. It's a little bit slow with the ring doing some tempting. But there are some fast decks out there as well that I think some players, like Will mentioned, do really like to go towards. Those Boros-based decks that are out there. So if you want to do some crazy stuff with 5-color, you can do that. If you want to be low to the ground and try to kill your opponent very quickly, that's an option too. Or if you really want to do some tempting with red and black, you can do that too.
Yeah, it's a great format. I think Amani touched on it earlier. Grixis is kind of where you want to be. Those are kind of the deepest colors, blue, black, and red. Black kind of considered the best color. That's the one you want to be because it's so deep. I think black has maybe 3 of the top 5 best commons in the set, if you look at it. So that's kind of where you want to start. But like you said, aggressive strategies are also a thing. If you want to go into something like red-white or maybe green-white, if you can get some of those payoff uncommons, those signpost uncommons, you can still draft a great deck.
What makes this format really fun too is I think the consensus opinion, as you mentioned, is that everybody knows black is good.
Yeah.
So black is also rather deep. So a table, can support 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 black drafters. What it can't do, at least we believe, is it can't support a ton of green drafters. So will somebody maybe get a little bit frisky out there trying to draft green, green, white, heck, maybe even 4 or 5 color green?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Green, I think, is widely considered to be the weakest color by many teams. However, if it's open, there's a lot of great fixing at common in green. So if you can draft those good commons like the Rose Pathfinder and then kind of draft all the best cards, you can just still end up with an extremely powerful deck.
And as we focus on the reigning world champion and Pro Tour March of the Machine champion Nathan Steuer, had the opportunity to chat with him yesterday, and he said he doesn't mind drafting green. Some players really are afraid to do so. He says, I'm not. I'm happy drafting potentially 4 or 5 color green, and I actually feel, and this is Nathan saying this, not me, that green is actually very underranked and undervalued in this draft format, so perhaps he and his team have found a green strategy that can work for them this weekend and take these players by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, if that ends up working out for them, that's a huge edge, right? Yeah. Where you get the edge in draft is not following what everybody else is doing. Everybody knows Dunlan Kerbane is great, right? Yeah. But at the same time, if you can pick some of those cards that nobody thinks is good, and have that success, as part of your successful strategy, then all of a sudden that's where you get the edge.
Well, you're going to see Nathan do a little pack one, pick one. Everybody's favorite part of the draft. You see Nazgul here to start things off. A black card immediately coming to the front of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best uncommons in the set, in the best color. So I imagine Nathan is just going to slam this Nazgul. Just a fantastic card. I mean, it's one of those cards where you first read it, you're like, oh, 3 mana, 2/3 Death Touch. That's pretty good.
Yep.
But remember, it also has Tempt, and it also continues to grow, and there's a lot of Tempt in the format. This is a format where whenever Tempt is just attached to a card, I basically almost count it as an additional half of a card. That's how powerful that mechanic is. So Nazgul, fantastic first pick here for Nathan. That's where you want to be. Black is where you want to start the draft. He's got to be happy about this.
And that is where Nathan Steuer will start the draft. So now it's time to look at Pack 1, Pick 2. Very quickly moving some more black cards like the Torment of Gullum to the front here. But also now you're going to see Moria Marauder get moved forward. So now as Nathan's going to decide between, it looks like just 2 cards here in the Torment, which is a premium black common, and then the Marauder as well.
I mean, every time my opponent plays Torment of Golem, I kind of just want to not play anymore.
Okay.
It's just, I like drafting control decks, and that card is just absolutely backbreaking. And I think it would be a great choice here to follow up that that pick 1 Nazgul, going with the Torment of Golem, staying in black, trying to cut off black as the best color. But Nathan going with something different here.
He's going to go with the Marauder. Now, this is kind of interesting because I think taking the discard spell is very simple and straightforward, right? You're going to take 2 cards from the best color in the format, but Nathan has opted to take a red card here in the Marauder. And one thing we do know about Nathan is he has a tendency to stay open early on in drafts. So it would be very easy to just force black right out the gate. But he says, you know what, I'm going to take the most powerful cards that are available to me, and then let's see what my seat gives me access to.
Right. Just don't get married to your first pick and just take the most powerful card. Moria Marauder, if you can get it to connect, it's extremely
Quite
powerful.
Good, yeah.
Double strike, getting a bunch of card advantage, and it wears the ring especially well.
Faramir, Field Commander looks to be the option that Nathan is heavily considering.
Yeah, it's probably the most powerful card in the pack here. So now Nathan, again, just trying to stay open here, taking just the best card in every pack and see what's available. Perhaps looking to go red-white here if he wants to just give up on that first pick Nazgul. But that's tough, right?
That is tough. Nazgul is very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as you mentioned, staying open, a black card, a red card, a white card. Let's see what pick number 4 yields.
Okay, and that is a Mary, Esquire of Rohan. So, you know, if you want to go with your second and third pick, it's an extremely powerful card here. Just a 2-mana, 2/2 haste. That's legendary, very relevant in this format. Very, very strong card.
And this is the kind of card, too, that if you want to run downhill, if you want to be an aggressive deck, Mary is a great place to go. And it looks like Mary is going to be the selection over the Goblin Fire Leaper that Nathan was taking a look at there. So now you've got a red-white card, a red card, a white card. Again, that doesn't mean you're a lock for Boros, but you're starting to lean that direction.
Yeah, Nathan's certainly taking the more powerful card. You could have taken something like a Fire Leaper, leave yourself a little more open, right? Give yourself outs to potentially go red-black, which is widely considered to be the best archetype. But Nathan going, hey, look, this is a 4th pick Mary. This is telling me that nobody else is likely in Boros behind me. So I'm going to take the red-white card and just read the signals and just try to draft a nice, good, aggressive strategy here.
And now you're seeing the red-white cards come to the front here for Nathan in this particular pick. Looks like Eagles of the North is going to be selected over the Relentless Rohirrim. Eagles, pretty powerful. I don't want to call it generic, but it has some positives, of course, with the plane cycling. And then if you get into a longer game, some positives there as well.
Yeah, in most decks, you generally want to have 1 to 2 copies of these land cycling creatures. Sometimes it allows you to cheat on lands. And additionally, the Eagles are also just a nice way for you to go wide. Typically, when you're playing the red-white deck, you have multiple ways to generate tokens. And by playing the Eagles, all of a sudden, you jam the Eagles, get a great attack in because everything has first strike, and then you still have an evasive creature left over.
A fairly quick selection of reprieve here for Nathan as he's going to pass his pack along. Return target spell to its owner's hand and draw a card for a colorless and a white mana. Not exactly a removal spell, of course, but if you're going to be an aggressive deck that's trying to tempo your opponent out of the game, it's a nice card to have.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the play and you just have a quick start and keep a reprieve, your opponents can't really play around it, right? They just have to play their card, so it's just a nice way to get some tempo. Is that another Mary?
That is a second Mary.
Okay.
5 seconds.
It's a great start here. Nathan able to read those signals with 2 copies of Mary in his Boros deck. Great start here for Nathan.
Yeah, a lot to like here as far as the start is concerned. And if you're keeping, if you're also keeping track of these packs too, he had the opportunity very early, did Nathan, to really go into black, but you're not seeing a lot of black cards being passed now either, which again isn't that surprising. Everybody knows in this tournament that black is the quote-unquote best color, and it's not so much, in my opinion, about saying I don't want to be in black. Then it's just how many people at the table can black support. Nathan is very quickly bowed out of that battle.
7 cards
absolutely. You know, a lot of times, I mean, this is the beauty of draft too. It's just sometimes it's self-correcting, right? If everybody thinks black is great and you have 5 drafters that are drafting black, well, then you can just draft the other. Wait, is this number 3?
This is the third Mary.
Number 3.
This is the third Mary. And I don't know if you're keeping track at home. A third different picture of Mary.
Third
as
different
well.
picture. So just mixing it up here. But wow, 3 copies of Mary. Of course, legendary. A little bit of a drawback, but you always want to draw one on turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a great way to get the game started. So. Now the curve is filling out pretty nicely. As you can see the picks here on the left, and now you're going to get the Lancer too. So maybe a little 1-drop to get the game started now as well. It's the first way for Nathan to turn on the tempt mechanic, as well. So Nathan's deck through the first 9 or so picks really shaping up nicely. That Nazgul, I don't think it's in the equation anymore, but that's okay. That's okay.
Now, Nathan just firmly going to be looking to draft red and white cards here, but look, it looks like he's in a fantastic seat for that with the 3 copies of Mary, and that was a really late Lancer as well. It's a fantastic card. It's a little unassuming, right? You're like 1-mana 1/1s generally in draft aren't so powerful, but this one just does enough where you're pretty happy with it.
Gimli's Axe going to get picked up a little bit late there. Pretty good with the Marys, of course. Looks like Gimli's Fury could be next. You see Nathan's going to look at these couple of cards before we do close out the pack.
All right.
Pick up 2 cards.
Doesn't even want to take the Fury there.
And he's going to pass along that land, and we'll do the review period in a moment. And as well, Nathan does his review. We'll do a review here as well, Paul. You can see the cards there on the left. Very clearly in Boros.
Yes.
Okay, now things that I would say Nathan is missing, and it's only pack 1, of course. No removal.
Nope.
Okay, doesn't have that. But as far as a early game is concerned, well, that got plenty of. And now we start to say, okay, as we organize the curve, we're getting ready here for Pack 2. What are the kind of things I'm looking for? Removal is, of course, very obvious. Maybe get some power and some uncommons, potentially opening up a good rare, being past a good rare.
Yeah.
But if I'm Nathan, one thing I'm thinking of right now is I've done a great job of cutting these two colors.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And one of the things when you're drafting these aggressive strategies is making sure you have the low part of your curve taken care of.
Yeah.
And Nathan's curve looks fantastic
Yes.
right now. So now he's got a lot more flexibility. He doesn't have to make the tough decision of taking a 2-drop over a more powerful spell.
Yep.
Because he's already got the 2-drops lined up here, right?
Yep.
So now he's just thinking, look, I just want to open Fear Fire Foe. I just want to open all the extremely powerful cards here because he can afford to take
5
those.
seconds.
And there are some very powerful cards that he can open in this color combination that it looks like, at least for right now,
Stop reviewing.
nobody else is
Please
really
put all
doing
your
this whole
picks
thing.
back
So
in a
he
single
might be
face
sitting
down
solo
pile.
in
Now
this
if you can
color
please find the
combination.
B booster, remove the paper wrapper, and just like before,
So we're
flip
going to prepare
over
here
that one
for
card,
pack
and then
number
count the rest
2
of the cards face down on
of
the
our
table
opening
to
draft
make
of
sure
Pro
that you
Tour
have
The Lord of the
15
Rings. Nathan going to lay out those
cards.
15 cards. I always wonder if I could just get in the player's head. And Nathan, what are we hoping for?
I mean, look, I'm just thinking of, well, one of the best cards in the set, Anduril, the equipment. That is phenomenal, especially, we even have a little bit of an equipment strat. Actually, I would go as far to say a lot of bit of equipment strategy.
Yeah, with 3
synergy,
Marys?
With 3 Marys.
Yeah.
So Anduril is something you certainly want to open, and of course, something like a Fear Fire Foe is something that you would want to open as well.
Never a bad time to open that card.
But hey, removal, you talked about it.
Yeah, this is what's missing from Pack 1. Now, again, we do have 2 whole packs left to go. You have to imagine Nathan is going to open or get past at least a little bit of removal. And speaking of opening it, there is a Smite the Deathless.
Yeah, fantastic pack. I mean, I was talking earlier about how powerful black is. I mean, look at this pack, right?
Yep.
You have the Torment of Gollum, you have Bitter Downfall, and a Dunlin Crebain, I believe.
Yeah, that's
So,
a really, really good pack.
This is just an absolutely loaded pack, but of course, easy Smite the Deathless
5
here for
seconds.
Nathan Steuer.
Yeah, and this is also a situation here, too, with given how Nathan's deck
Draw.
is kind of shaped up
Shuffle
through the
and
first
count
pack,
14
kind of
cards
shifting
to
to a
your
different
right.
color. I think that's just out of the question now.
No,
You're not really going
absolutely
to
not.
go in the battle for black cards or anything like that. You're just going to kind of stay the course and hope that you just get past the cards you presume
up
you're going to get
14
past, which
cards,
are the
you
red
have
and white
14
ones.
You are locked in now. You don't just draft 3 Marys and then go, you know what? If I open a good blue card, maybe I'll figure out a way to slide it in. So.
Aaron Rider of Gondar has been pulled to the front here.
Yeah.
Not too much else going on here. You see a copy of the Black Breath. Nathan going to move around a couple of different black cards. I think right now, of course, because we don't believe he's going to really consider any black cards,
No.
this is just more for maybe making some mental notes.
No, yeah, Voracious Fellbeast, one of the best uncommons in the set. So just keeping a note, it's like, hey, I've passed some extremely powerful black cards. Anybody who's in black is going to take this Fellbeast immediately as it's extremely powerful. But this Aaron Rider of Gondor, one of the best white commons in the
5
set,
seconds.
probably the best white common in the set. So good in Nathan's deck. He's got so many legends
Draw.
that he can play on turn 2.
Shuffle and
So he
count
can just do
13
the
cards
perfect
to your
curve
right.
of Mary into turn 3 Aaron, and you just have a 3-mana 3/2 that enters a battlefield and just draws you a card.
Yeah, 4
up
legendary
13
creatures
cards,
up to
you
this
have
point
35 seconds.
with the 3 Marys and the Fire Mirror. So Nathan off to a really, really nice start. Now there's the book.
Yeah, and not seeing a whole lot of other red and white cards in the Book of Mazarbul. Very solid card, right? I mean, just if you just the card by itself, it just gives you a 3-mana 3/3 body, and then of course there's that go wide mechanic in Chapter 3 where you get that fast start, and all of a sudden all of your creatures are really difficult to block.
And it looks like the book is going to be a very easy selection. So the Book of Mazragul has been selected. It goes nicely
seconds.
with that second pick, Moria Marauder, as well. So not too bad as we move on to
Draw.
our next
Shuffle
pack.
and count 12 cards to
So a
your
really
right.
solid start here for in Pack 2 here for Nathan.
And when we talked to the players
Pick up
yesterday,
12 cards,
you know,
you have 30
players,
seconds.
they didn't really say that they loved red white, but they didn't dislike it either. It was, it was something that most of the players I talked to, they said, if I end up being red white, I'm okay with it. It's
Yeah.
a good deck. It can be a great deck at times. But there was a lot of, boy, I'd love to be black and I don't mind fighting over it. Or I'm not afraid to draft green, but I don't want to.
Yeah. So the thing about red white is it can be good, but you kind of have to be maybe the only person drafting it.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations. If you can get some of
5
the great
seconds.
payoff uncommons, right? Then that's what shapes your deck. If you're just drafting a deck
Draw.
of red-white commons,
Shuffle
you're
and
likely
count
not going to
11
get there.
cards
Yeah.
to your
Whereas
right.
you can get there with black-red or black-blue or what have you. But if you're the only
up
if
11
you're the only
cards,
person
you have
drafting red-white, then
25
of
seconds.
course you can get there. You can get that great deck.
We'll go on to our next pack here, and what you're going to see as we leaf through
A
this
lot
is
of, lot of green
there
cards.
are a lot of green cards here,
Yeah.
and we know Nathan's not there. It appears nobody else really is at this table
Yeah.
either.
I mean, this pack just doesn't have any good cards in it, really. So I mean, the best card here is the Meriadoc Brandybuck, so maybe are you just considering a hate draft here, 5th pick, because there's absolutely nothing that Nathan would be interested in putting into his deck?
It looks like the answer to that question is yes. So Meriadoc Brandybuck is going to get selected there for Nathan.
Pick up 10 cards.
Not going to make his deck, of course, or it'd be very strange if it did. So on to the next pack we go. Looks like Breaking of the Fellowship going to be pulled forward.
Yeah, Breaking of the Fellowship, you know, this is a card that's kind of gone, its stock or value has gone down for me over time. It just, it looks like it could be great, and I think maybe it has more applications in a more controlling strategy, but when you're playing an aggressive deck, your opponents are often trying to trade creatures with you, and it's hard to set up that situation where you can get a really good Breaking of the Fellowship. But guess what? It still has Tempt on it, right? So if you can even just use it to kill a 1/1 and still trigger that Tempt, still fine.
And Tempt is very, very powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
So any way that you can turn that on, you're going to be very, very, very happy with. So Nathan's going to take that Breaking of the Fellowship, move on here to the next pack, a Farmer and the Blade.
The Blade, I mean, specifically if you are drafting red-white, your deck is almost entirely humans, in which case the Blade becomes a reasonable card. Still not the best, but, you know, being able to equip your humans for only 1 mana, +2/+1, along with, of course, the 3 copies of that Mary, make it so that it's not the worst. I typically try to avoid playing this card in my decks, but I think in Nathan's deck specifically, it's fine.
Yeah, and you put the Blade on a Mary, that's a 4/3 first striker. Which,
4/3 first striker.
That's good in combat.
Does a lot of work.
Looks like the Esquire of the King.
Yeah, it's a totally fine card, especially in this deck. Nathan's very likely to have a legendary creature in play, so it's just 3 mana, pump up your entire squad. It is a human. Nathan right now doesn't have a whole lot of human payoffs.
Yes.
You see that in the uncommons, but right now Nathan doesn't seem to have any of those.
Pick up 7 cards.
Let's see if he can maybe find a human payoff here as we look through this pack. Okay, well, we found a Saga there. It looks like the tail.
Tale of Tenuvial, not the best. Not the best, especially in this type of strategy, but I mean, it's really the only card in the pack.
It
here,
is, yeah. This is it's a bit of a whammy here for Nathan, insofar as it's really the only card for him.
Yeah.
I agree with you, it's not that powerful in what he's trying to put together. But if there's nothing else there, you just kind of select it. Maybe it makes your deck, maybe it doesn't.
I mean, Nathan was really hoping for Rally at the Hornburg. Now, that's a card that I think is just one of the best red commons in the set. Just 2 mana, make 2 1/1s with haste, put a lot of pressure. You know, 1/1s have a lot more value in this format than other formats because of the Tempt mechanic. You always want to put Tempt on lower powered creatures because it makes it so that it's really hard to block. But Nathan just hasn't been able to see one.
Rush the Room was the last pick. Gimli Counter of Kills is the most recent pick.
Pick up 4 cards.
So the 4/3 Dwarf Warrior has been selected. Nathan will look at 5 cards here.
Yeah.
Might actually just be 4 of them either way. None of them particularly appetizing.
So Nathan had a really great start to this pack. He had 4 cards that he was really happy to put into this deck, but I think it kind of fell off. And I think when everything is said and done here, I only see 6 cards from the pack that Nathan would be okay putting into his deck. So he's might need some help in the last pack.
Yeah, and if I'm Nathan, I'm a little bit disappointed with how this pack went because pack number 1 went really well. You know, wield that copy of Mary, which is a very loud signal that nobody's doing the Boros thing, right? It's not so much that Nathan had 3 copies of Mary. For me, it's that Nathan wheeled a copy of Mary, which is the very loud signal that, yo, I'm kind of flying solo here in red and white. I should probably get paid off here in some form or fashion in pack 2, and that's just really not what happened.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought he did a really good job of just cutting off all the red and white cards. So, I mean, it's possible that the players that he's passing to just maybe opened a bomb,
that's
right?
possible.
That's red and white and didn't get off of it. But, yeah, the pack's kind of dried up here for Nathan at the end.
Yeah, difficult thing here is as I mentioned after pack 1, I'm looking for removal if I'm Nathan. Okay, well, I got 1 removal spell and Smite the Deathless. I opened that. I didn't get past any additional ones, so I'm sitting on effectively 1 removal spell right now. Still kind of lacking as far as power level is concerned. No real, like, super bomby uncommons or rares or mythics or anything like that.
Right.
I still think that Nathan is in the right color combination.
Right.
And for his seat, the packs just were kind of unkind there in the second run around the table.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I mean, if you just kind of go up the curve, not too much here. I mean, he's got a bunch of 1s and 2s, but nothing to kind of round out his deck. And he only has the Smite. And you might see him actually just play the Breaking of the Fellowship just because he doesn't have any other removal effects.
Yeah, you can't be particularly picky in a situation like this when you're lacking on removal. You might just have to play it. Now, the good news here, if you're rooting for Nathan, is that he does have a full another pack to go. If you believe that, okay, this was just a bad run of packs, it's not like you can switch.
No,
Right.
absolutely not.
We're staying the course.
You are locked in here,
Yeah.
and you're just
All right, folks, if you can
hoping
please
that
now
the
take a
packs
C
open.
booster. Same procedure as before.
Red and white
Remove
cards.
That's right.
wrapper,
That's really all you can do
flip
is
one
hope that the
card
packs
the
are
other
pretty
way
kind.
around. Count
So
that
we'll
you
see if
have
the packs are
15
kind for our reigning
unmarked
world champion,
cards
Nathan Steuer.
remaining in booster C.
Perhaps an uncommon human payoff.
Wouldn't be the worst thing to
Another
see.
Smite the Deathless.
And there's some very good opens in a spot like this. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There are some very, very good uncommons and
Reminder,
rares to
folks,
open in a
pack three,
situation
maybe
like
you're
this.
making
Probably
decisions
not
a little
another
bit
Mary,
quicker
though.
now,
I
but
feel like
please just
4 of those
remember
seems
to
a little
stick to my
much.
timings
Yeah.
and
I don't think I've ever had.
I think three's my limit.
Right, yeah.
Picks
3
once
legendary
you hit
creatures
Yeah.
that cost 2. Yeah.
All right, folks, pick up your booster. You have 40 seconds.
So Nathan's going to sift on through. Moment of truth
Okay.
here. All right. Erkenbrand was not a bad thing to see.
Erkenbrand is a great, great payoff. That's one of the uncommon payoffs that I was talking about in the red-white deck. I mean, his deck is almost all humans. The Protector of Gondor is also great, but I think you're just going to want to take the Erkenbrand here. It's the card that you want in this archetype.
Yeah. Eagles he already has a copy of. We know that already. Erkenbrand is a nice payoff, as you did mention, Paul. And I think, again, what Nathan is doing here, as any player who does
5
draft at this
seconds.
level does, is just taking some mental notes on what they could potentially wheel and what they are passing to their opponents here.
Yeah,
Shuffle and count
he's kind of
14
hoping that maybe
cards
the
to your
Eagle
left.
tables.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a
right?
second
So,
one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Just cut a plains.
Yep.
Just play an Eagle, cut a
Well,
plains. Just, it's a
down to-
land. It's a land.
Pick
It's
up
a
14
land.
Down to 15 lands it is.
Like,
What is the lowest number of lands? I think I've gone down to 14 once.
Wow, you are a brave
I had
soul.
5 land cyclers.
Okay, all right. We take a look now. Foray of Orcs has been moved to the front here very
Ooh,
quickly
and a
alongside
Smite.
a Smite. Yeah, as you did mention. So a couple of goodies here for Nathan to choose from. That Foray of Orcs, pretty nice card there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nathan doesn't have a ton of amass, but just even the floor of Foray of Orcs, 4 mana, 2/2, enter the battlefield, just kill something
Yeah.
that's 2 toughness or less. There's a lot of little creatures in this format. Nathan doesn't have a ton of 4 mana cards. I think he might just be leaning on Foray here, but of course Smite
Draw.
also
5
fantastic.
That's a
card.
nice, yeah, Smite is a nice card. 2 mana, allows you to potentially double spell
Right.
on a turn later on in the game, but it is going to be the Foray that Nathan Steuer does select. So we move on to Pack 3, Pick
13
3.
cards.
These pairs will take a look
Good. All
at
right,
some
pick up. You
cards.
have 35 seconds.
And we'll see what Nathan is going to take a look at now. There's another
Ooh,
Eagles.
Aragorn, but
Right.
cannot take that one.
Okay, so now it looks like Shire Sheriff is going to be pulled to the front.
So there's a Shire Sheriff, but there's also a Protector of Gondor, which is very, very good. Very, very good. Just the fact that anything that can just make another 1/1 token is really powerful, and you're kind of wanting to go wide as well. Now, Nathan did pick up a couple of 4s, so might be considering his curve. Shire Sheriff is good. I generally prefer it in the green-white
5
strategy
seconds.
where you can generate a lot of food.
Yeah,
and
a
you
lot
can
of
sacrifice
tokens.
food.
Yep.
Whereas in red-white, not so
Draw.
much, right?
Yeah.
You're not able to generate as
Shuffle
many
and
tokens,
count
so you're not
12
able to
cards
actually
to your
use
left.
that effect where you can exile a creature.
Yeah, it looks like Nathan was deciding between the Shire and Rising of the Day and elected to go with the 2/2
12
Halfling
cards.
Okay.
Soldier.
Remember, it's
30
also not a human.
Yep, very good point. Very good point. Now we'll take a look at Pack 3, Pick 4 here for Nathan.
A lot of solid options here. The Spearmaster is fine if you're trying to draft an aggressive red-white deck. The Relentless Rohirrim is also good. Nathan seems to be a little bit light on tempt effects, right? And you really want to have a good amount of those to finish off the game. That's how, if you're
5 seconds.
kind of running out of steam at the end, right? Getting to the 4th ability on tempt,
Yep.
Shuffle
really,
and
really
count
That'll drag you
11
across the
cards
finish
to your
line.
right? Exactly.
Again, 1 pile for your picks, please. Thank you.
All right,
right.
the Relentless 4/3, more tempting.
Pick up
as
11
you
cards.
men-
You
As
have
you
25
mentioned,
seconds.
I think this is his 3rd way for the ring to tempt Nathan. So
Ooh, that's a gift here.
now that is nice because
Yeah.
that Aaron Rider of Gondor, if that is going to be the selection, he's got 5 legendary creatures now up until this point. Those 3 copies of Mary, the Faramir, that was drafted very early in the Erkenbrand.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be just a slam dunk Aaron Rider
5
here.
seconds.
Nathan's got to be really happy. 5th pick. Very, very strong.
yeah, that's pretty nice there for
Draw.
Nathan. And this is what we were talking about over the course of this draft, which is, look, he can't really pivot. He's got to stay the course. He's done such a great job in pack number 1 of essentially drafting his seed, and now he just needs to be rewarded. He doesn't have any control over that, so he's got to kind of get a little lucky.
Yeah, well, the thing is, this is the easy part now, right? You're just like, I'm just going to take the best red or white card in every pack.
Every pack.
That's it. That's my thing.
Yep.
Drafting's going to be pretty easy, so I'm just going to see what's available here. And it looks like another reprieve here for Nathan. Is that number 2 or 3?
I believe that's number 3.
Wow.
On the reprieve count.
That is a lot of reprieves.
And of course, if you just get a little ahead, your opponent casts some sort of 4 or 5 mana spell, you reprieve that, you draw a card, just keep snowballing before they can stabilize and finish the game that way. So reprieve is going to have moments here for Nathan if he is ahead of looking extremely, extremely good.
Yeah, really good kind of late game spell where you can go, hey, turn 4, play my 4-drop, keep up the reprieve, huge tempo boost.
Now a little bit of a payoff finally, Paul.
7th pick Aowen? That is really, really nice. This creature just does a lot of work. 3 mana, 2/4 body. And then the fact that you can just make your creatures extremely difficult to block with that first strike ability.
Notable that it's human, notable that it's legendary, notable that the equip abilities also cost a little bit less too.
Yeah, so if you have the Doomblade, right, it just costs 0 to move your equipment around.
Very, very nice. Speaking of that
Shadowfax.
I don't know if you know this. That card is red and white.
That is red and white. Wait, hold on.
Colors.
Can we confirm that?
It's both
There we go.
colors.
There it is.
Okay.
Yep, red and white confirmed. Nathan drafting red and white, so going into his deck.
Yeah, we make a great team.
I know. Yeah, we got this.
5 mana, 4/4 haste. Right off the jump, that's pretty darn good.
That's something that you would play.
Shuffle and count 7 cards.
Okay, so that's the kind of payoff that he's effectively been waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pick up 7 cards. You have.
I mean, Nathan was in the right colors. That is a gift here. You talked about it already. Kind of lacking a little bit of power there at the top end of the curve. This is exactly the type of card that you want to finish off games.
And that was the 8th pick. So now we're just going to go through the cards that he's going to be wheeling and has seen before. So that was really his last opportunity of seeing something new. And that was a nice one to see there at that stage of the draft. So now Nathan's going to finish cleaning up things as far as looking at the final packs and just adding a couple of cards to his deck.
No Eagles.
No Eagles, unfortunately.
Right. So nothing here that he'd be especially happy with putting into his deck.
Yeah. Maybe you can find a good sideboard card or two.
Yeah.
You know, I do wonder how happy Nathan is to be red and white, how he feels about this color combination, how he feels this draft has gone.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like one of those drafts where he drafted the right colors for his seat.
I would agree.
But at the same time, maybe didn't quite get all the cards that he needed, right? A little bit light on interaction. That would be my biggest
tough one.
concern.
There's a real lack of removal here.
Right.
So if there's some problematic permanents that are on the battlefield, Nathan has to try to work around them because he doesn't have a way to take care of them.
Right. So he's going to be leaning a lot on kind of getting off to an aggressive start and then kind of leaning on those 3 reprieves that he has to kind of prevent the opponent from resolving a 4/4 because that's going to be a lot of trouble.
That's going to be tough.
Right.
It's going to be very, very difficult if that ends up being the case. So the real lack of removal here from Nathan is going to end up, well, we'll see if it's going to end up being a problem. I don't want to speak that into existence.
I mean, is anything a problem for Nathan
at
this point?
Over the past year or so, not so much. So Nathan will take a look over his deck that he has drafted here. It is a Boros deck that we are watching the World Champion and Pro Tour March of the Machine Champion draft. You know, everything was looking great after pack 1. Things got a little bit dicey there in pack number 2. And, of course, things, I think, rounded out pretty well there in pack 3. It's not perfect, no. I don't think anyone would say that, but this is the kind of deck that can string together a win or 2. And with Nathan, well, we always know 3 wins is possible.
Right. And it's one of those things where when you kind of look at a deck, at least you look at this deck and you go, hey, look, I have a nice curve. I have some powerful legends. I've got some synergies built in, right? So it's one of those things where still looks like it could be a 2-1 deck, right? And with the right draws, when you're an aggressive deck, you can punish clunky starts. You can still get off that 3-0. And, of course, Nathan Steuer, that's probably just +1 win by itself.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, look, the appeal of an aggressive strategy you mentioned is you can just do 1, 2, 3, 4 right out the door.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I like to play Magic. I know you like to be a little bit more controlling, especially in your drafts of this particular format. But sometimes you can't just get run down.
Right.
You know, and that's part of the appeal to drafting Boros in this particular format. Now, again, I think Nathan's deck, if we're going to kind of go on a 1 to 10 scale, I would guess maybe like a 6.5.
Yeah.
We can maybe confirm that here, as this looks to be the final build of Nathan's deck. And to me, not too many surprises.
Yeah, and you know, he's got a couple of filler cards. The East Farthing Farmer is not something that you really want to be playing in your red-white aggressive deck. Breaking of the Fellowship also not ideal, but everything else looks okay, right? again, you have the nice curve, you have a good amount of legends, you have some top end, and you know, you got the 3 copies of Reprieve, which I think is going to do a lot of work here for Nathan.
Well, if Nathan's able to get ahead and cast those Reprieves, they're going to be quite good, and that's the goal for what he's trying to do here. Again, to me, a little bit of 6.5. There is a high end as far as the ceiling is concerned on the draws, but there's a low end of 2, and that makes things a little bit scary here for Nathan. I'm excited to watch how this is going to play out in the hands of our world champion. So, in order for us to do that, we have to take a short break here from Barcelona. When Paul and I do come back, it's going to be Nathan Steuer in round number 1 of our draft. See you soon.